How's it going, guys? Aaron here. Hope you're all doing well. I wanted to bring you another video with value, obviously. Today I wanted to cover tips for a better Genius Bar experience. So when you go to the Apple Store, sometimes it's really busy or crowded, and sometimes you really need to get your machine fixed, and sometimes you run into issues because you realize you're not as prepared as you should have been. So today I wanted to cover some of the things I found can be helpful for anyone in really any situation if they have a problem they need to get their Apple device fixed. So if you own an iPhone, an iPad, probably even an Apple Watch, Mac, really any Apple device, this video is for you. I just have a few things listed on my MacBook Pro here, so just bear with me. I'm going to be going back and forth just to make sure I can cover everything that I wanted to cover. So the first thing I wanted to say is make sure you have a backup of your data if at all possible, okay? So if you're using an iOS device like iPhone or iPad, that means making an iCloud backup like I spoke about in a previous video. You can watch my tips for iPhone down below in the description. I'll leave the link. And if you're using a Mac, that means using Time Machine with an external hard drive, so it pretty much copies everything from your computer into the external hard drive. And then if you really want to get a little bit more sophisticated and protect your data a little bit better, maybe an offsite backup solution as well for your Mac. Okay, that's number one. Number two is to know your Apple ID and password. Now, we talked about that as an important thing for iPhone users in the video that I'll link down in the description once again. But it's important for a user of any Apple device, whether it's watch, like I said, phone. Now, if you're using watch, you're going to have an iPhone, I'm sure. That's for the obvious reason it has to be paired, at least initially, I would say. So Mac, though, and so the other Apple products like maybe iPod Touch, I would say, these are important things to know. So you know your Apple ID and know your password. Okay, that's number two. Number three is make an appointment ahead of time if you can, okay? There's three basic ways you can make an appointment. You can make one by the Apple Store app. Excuse me, not the Apple Store app, but you might be able to, but the Apple Support app. If you download that from the App Store, you can stay prepared. You don't necessarily want to wait till you're already having a problem to download it. So download it. It should show your the devices that you own that are signed in with your Apple credentials, with your Apple ID and password. And it should show you actually, if you click on them, I believe it shows you the warranty status, other information. It allows you to troubleshoot some of the issues that you might be having yourself and even make an appointment right from the app. That's number one. You can make an appointment from the Apple Store app. You can make an appointment via the phone. You can call up 800 APL Care. Unfortunately, I don't remember the numbers that ties to, but 800 APL Care. You can call them up and I'm sure you can make an appointment. Now, it's usually booked out a little bit in advance, so any of these methods, you're not going to necessarily get an instantaneous result, but we'll talk about that later. And the third way to make an appointment ahead of time is in person. So you can go into your local Apple Store, tell them you need an appointment, they'll let you know when the soonest available appointments are, or when the other open slots are, and see if you can work something into your schedule so that it's mutually, it works for both parties. All right, so those are three ways: Apple Support app, the over phone support, and in person in an Apple Store. Tip number four is to opt for an Apple Store location where possible if you need Apple service on your device. So there are other options, authorized service providers, authorized service centers, and I'm sure they're pretty decent, but I think the resources and the options may be greater at an official Apple Store location. So I would recommend going to an Apple Store or making an Apple Store appointment. More so than I would recommend for an authorized service provider, unless that's your only option. Now, there are other service options that we could talk about in another video, but this is, the core method if you want to be seen in person. Tip number five: if you absolutely can't wait to make a future appointment, you can make a same-day walk-in appointment at an Apple Store. Now, the way it works is you're put on a wait list, and when you're put on that wait list, you basically are taken in priority of when you had made that appointment relative to the other people. There are some, I'm sure, other factors that go into that. They're a little bit more sophisticated, but those are the basics. What I will say is that when you register with a technician or somebody taking down your information for that waitlist appointment, make sure that you give them a working cell phone number if possible so they can text you, because the wait can be pretty significant. Now, they're going to try to take you the same day, which is a pretty good deal, but remember, it's not much different than a doctor's office. These people are operating, so to speak, on your device potentially, and they have to diagnose it and fix it and get it healthy again potentially. So just remember that there's a lot of customers, especially at a busy store, and that you need to either have an appointment ahead of time or be prepared to wait. Now, the reason why, like I said, a working cell phone number is good because they can text you when you're ready to be seated, when you're almost ready to be seated. And the way that works is, let's say it's 2 hours, 2-hour wait, which I would say isn't that uncommon. If you go out into a mall, let's say it's part of a mall, you can walk around the mall, you can take a small drive, probably even in a small radius, you can walk outside, have a little bite to eat. You know, as long as you're pretty good about your time. You're going to get multiple text messages, but the most important text message is the one that says, you know, we're almost ready for you, please check in with a specialist, or something to that effect. So definitely pay attention to text messages. Give a good working cell phone number. If you're with somebody, if let's say you don't have a good working cell phone, stop working. If you bring somebody along and they have a cell phone number, maybe you can provide that. And of course, an accurate email address for other communication and record keeping for Apple in the future you may need to provide. Don't forget to tell them the symptoms as accurately as possible, and if you have more than one device, tell them that, because they're going to need to make more than one appointment, or at least make an appointment that allots the technician enough time to see you for that, for the multiple appointments or multiple issues, if you're having multiple issues. So don't forget to let the person who's making you the appointment or appointments as soon as possible what the problems that you are experiencing, if that makes sense. Okay, number 6 is be early, but don't expect to be seen earlier than your appointment. So if you have a fixed appointment time, definitely do not show up late. Be on time, be early if possible. Sometimes there's a little bit of a wait. You have to wait on a line in the center of the store before you can check in with a technician or an employee, so that you can be seated, because they need to mark you down and know where you're basically seated to find you, and to know that you actually showed up for your appointment and didn't just ditch the appointment or couldn't make it. So try to be early, because that wait can take up a little bit of time, and it's also just prudent for you to be a little bit early. I would say 15 minutes early makes sense. So not that not that early. 15 minutes is not that bad. I think everybody can manage that. And then, of course, number seven is be prepared to wait. So the employees generally try to work as fast as possible and as efficiently as possible, and it's they really do, I think, a pretty good job. But the thing is that sometimes an appointment takes a little bit longer, and if you're on a wait list or you have a fixed appointment, they're still trying to go through in some sort of pecking order. So not necessarily picking somebody as being more important, but picking somebody who's been there longer, or somebody who has an earlier appointment. Whatever the specific way that it's run at the Apple Store, I'm not exactly sure of the specifics of how that is calculated in each store per se, but however it's prioritized, you may have to wait a little bit longer than you expected. So bring something with you if you can. Bring something to do, a little bit of reading material, something to keep yourself occupied. And if you do have a listed appointment, a wait-listed appointment or a walk-in appointment for the same day. And when you can't make them, by the way, over the phone, a walk-in you have to make in person, and you have to make it the same day. You can't make it ahead of time. You may receive that text 2 hours later, 3 hours later. Be prepared to do something else in the meantime. Don't feel that you need to be stuck in that store, because you don't. You give you pretty good freedom to let you know when to come back. All right, so those are my 7 tips for success at the Genius Bar in an Apple Store. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, if you found anything helpful. Leave comments below. Really anything you want to comment about. Hopefully it's related to the video, but if not, I guess that's, we'll assess that as it comes along. Don't forget to check out other videos on this channel. I've made a bunch. I've been trying to make a video every single day for you guys. It's been tough at times, but I hope you guys appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the red subscribe button, of course, to get more content, and you can even hit the little bell icon for notifications when new videos are released. Anyway, until next time, don't forget to follow your passions, do what makes you happy, and this is Aaron, signing out.